So I think we can all relate to a situation where we saw somebody we didn't like who was kind of in a jam, and you kind of felt like, well, why even help that person? Why even come to the aid of somebody that you think is really does not have your best interests at heart? So why should you have their best interests at heart? Well, I would say that in this case, I don't think it quite reaches that sort of standard. But, if we don't call out nonsense related to people that we don't like, then we can't expect any gratitude when, to be shown when we're attacked. Those of, if, and I'm talking to anybody here, if you feel that your side is being treated unfairly, you should try as best as you can to treat other sides fairly. So the story today was actually sent to me yesterday by one of my viewers, Arjun, or as I like to call him, Truth Seeker Jeff. And he is from India. He happens to be a Hindu as well as a follower of the Hindutva, which is it's kind of a religious nationalist philosophy in India, related, of course, to the Hindu religion. And it concerns this ad, which was shown in Hawaii. And I was looking at the date. It turns out that it was in the run-up to the primaries this year. So let's watch it. I don't think it's that long. It's only 3 minutes, 33 seconds. And we'll kind of analyze some of it. I'm not going to try to make this too long because it is late today. And I do have to head off and go to work tomorrow. But we'll cover it, I think. It is an interesting case.
We thought change was on the horizon when Tulsi Gabbard was first elected. We thought the Hawaiian Congresswoman cherished the American dream and our democratic values. We didn't know then that she would use her political position to align with the world's scariest right-wing extremists in foreign lands. Now we wonder, does Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard represent the people of Hawaii? Or does she represent India's religious fanatics? In 2014, the fascist Hindu nationalist political party, the BJP, seized power in India. The BJP is the political wing of the RSS, a paramilitary inspired by Nazi Germany. The goal of the RSS is to cleanse India of all non-Hindus. Its earliest leaders praised Hitler's Holocaust. They called it a good lesson for us to learn and profit by. Tulsi Gabbard embraces and celebrates these same fascists who massacre Christians, Muslims, and other minorities in India. Her favorite among them is Hindu nationalist politician Narendra Modi. Modi pursued a policy of ethnic cleansing in 2002 when he was head of the government of Gujarat. His administration slaughtered thousands of Muslims in a pogrom. Afterward, he was banned from entering the United States of America. In 2013, the U.S. Congress tried passing a resolution to condemn Modi's genocide in Gujarat. But Tulsi took Modi's side and helped kill the resolution. Tulsi's intimacy with Hindu nationalism deepened in 2014 after Modi was elected Prime Minister of India. First, Tulsi fought to overturn Modi's visa ban and bring him to the United States. Then, Tulsi was the guest of honor at events organized by overseas friends of the BJP, first in Los Angeles and then second in Atlanta. She grinned for the camera while wearing a BJP scarf. Tulsi began her personal relationship with Modi in New York. She again rendezvoused with Modi when his government financed her trip to India, where she spoke at a Hindu nationalist conference. Returning from India in 2015, Tulsi invited Modi's devoted confidant, Ram Madhav, to her wedding. Madhav is a key Hindu nationalist leader, a top executive for both the RSS and the BJP. Tulsi continued her affair with Modi in California in 2015 and in Washington, D.C. in 2016. For Tulsi, politics is a pay-to-play game. Tulsi takes hundreds of thousands of dollars per election cycle from Hindu nationalist affiliated donors, the same people who finance religious fanatics in India. After Tulsi has spent so much time working as an ambassador for the fascists of India, We want her to answer to the people of the United States of America and to the people of Hawaii. Who does Tulsi Gabbard serve? How long will she continue putting the interests of religious fanatics ahead of the interests of humanity? What's her incentive? Why does she turn a blind eye to the atrocities of India's fascists? Is Tulsi bought and paid for by Hindu supremacists?
Sorry, my microphone was off. So this is from a group called Organization for Minorities of India. And a funny thing happened when Arjun shared it with me, Truth Seeker Jeff, and he basically had said to me, look, I think this might be the work of some sort of Sikh separatist group. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess I'll check it out. So I saved it to a playlist, and when you save a video to a playlist and your account is linked to a Twitter account, then apparently you end up tweeting that out, that you add something to a playlist. And two people, one of them using the screen name Expose Hindutva, and the other one Sing of Judah, they basically shared my tweet, which I don't really have that many followers on Twitter. And yeah, I would say that it's very likely that there is some sort of involvement of either Sikh nationalists or some other Hindu or Indian opposition group that is not Hindu is behind this. Okay, so the few times that I've spoken to Arjun on the air about India, he does come across as a very Hindu nationalist-oriented person. But the fact is that if you look at the history of India, its post-independence period is kind of rocked by this whole notion that would become the secular, new, modern state of India that would modernize the subcontinent and whatever. And of course, there's an Indian National Congress and the Gandhi Nehru family and everything. We can't get into all that today. But the issue is that India has had for decades tried to maintain this veneer of secularism, but in reality, it just hasn't worked out for them. A lot of Indian people do identify with their religion, and the majority of Indians, by population, happen to believe in the Hindu religion, which I believe they don't even call it the Hindu religion. I could be wrong about that, but there is a different name for it. And so then we get to the issue of Tulsi Gabbard. Now, other issues that have dealt with this year, of figures on the far left that I think have been smeared unfairly. I think that some of these smears just are naked opportunism. Okay, the first and foremost, of course, is the attack made on Dennis Kucinich in the spring when he was running for governor of Ohio. They were trying to call him some sort of Assad puppet. Now, I'm not going to lie and tell you that I think it's, I personally would never meet with Bashar al-Assad or go visit Syria. I think he's a horrible leader. I think that he's murdered a lot of people. What Dennis Kucinich's philosophy has been and always will be is that he's a non-interventionist. He'll go to a conflict area and try to figure out exactly what's going on. He'll try, and he was trying to see whether there were indeed chemical gas attacks. I think on one occasion when he visited Syria, and I think he was there on multiple occasions. So those people calling him a puppet of the Assad regime, I think they're assuming too much. Yes, I think that he does have, he could be pretty gullible towards what the Assad regime is doing, but it does not. That does not in and of itself make him a puppet of Assad, who, by the way, I've never been a sympathizer of Assad. I still think he's a brutal tyrant. I think he deserves a lot of the blame for what's happened in Syria, probably the lion's share of the blame. You know, it's not just us who funded some of these militant groups that did it. He created the maelstrom of violence that gave them an in, that gave them a vacuum to fill. But that's enough about Assad and Kucinich. So another case, of course, was the Mattis file and Bernie Sanders. That was the case of mainstream cable television, MSNBC, as well as a lot of other press outlets on the left were trying to smear Bernie Sanders for not reporting Russian bots that were infiltrating his campaign or volunteers affiliated with his campaign. That was a complete hoax. I'm still trying to get the word out. You know, if anybody's interested in that, I can pretty much give you as much information as you need. And it's a major story that I'm working on. Again, I don't support Bernie Sanders at all, and I never will. Just like I don't support Dennis Kucinich, and I never will. Their philosophy is pretty much on the other end of the spectrum for me. But it doesn't mean you can just publish whatever the fuck you want about these people. Okay, and then another occasion, this is leading back to Tulsi Gabbard, is the issue with Keith Ellison, who was a person I actually despise probably more than the other people. Because Keith Ellison is, in fact, a pathological liar about his connection to the Nation of Islam. If he really wants to be honest, he should just come out with it and say, look, I used to be affiliated with the Nation of Islam. But he won't do it because he just doesn't have any integrity. So I exposed him for that. But then, on the other hand, with all these domestic violence issues, I do tell people, look, I think that we should have it investigated. People should see whether indeed Keith Ellison was abusing his girlfriend at the time. I think it was his girlfriend, but he's still innocent until proven guilty. And for some reason, they're not releasing that video. So I think I have a good record of being consistent when it comes to people on the left with scandals or certain smears against them. So what I'll say about Tulsi Gabbard, you can see from this article from The Atlantic from 2015 when she was sworn in. This was after the 2014 election. She is basically wearing some Hindu garb, and she's swearing on the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know if that's the way you pronounce it, which is, I think, the most well-known Hindu holy text. And this is a person who is deeply, deeply committed to, I guess, she let's see, it says, Gabbard isn't, however, your typical Hindu. At least she's not what is normally associated with being a Hindu. She's a Hawaiian of Samoan descent, the daughter of a Roman Catholic and a Caucasian Hindu convert. She's a light-skinned surfing Iraq war vet set to marry her boyfriend later this year in a traditional Vedic ceremony. So she's not actually Indian American. So she converted to Hinduism. I personally do not believe in Hinduism. I mean, me and Arjun have joked about it because, of course, they're polytheists and I'm monotheistic. But look, this is a woman. She's proud of her religion. We believe in freedom of religion in America, so there's not much you can do to attack that. Now, this ad campaign, I don't know how many of these there were, but it purports that she supported a terrorist regime over in India. But the fact of the matter is that many of the clips that you saw, or at least the still photos, were relating to the period after Prime Minister Modi was elected in 2014, such that you're not talking about her trying to get this random person, Narendra Modi, into the U.S. who shouldn't be here because he's a terrorist. There were issues. I took a quick glance where Modi, he was accused of certain things in 2002 in his home province of Gujarat, where he'd been the governor, of facilitating riots that killed minority Muslims. That much is true. That much is true. But those are accusations, and he was never convicted of any of it. So, look, I'm no expert on the Indian justice system. I think we should be, we in America, we're not, our job is not to inspect and basically judge the internal issues of every single country. Of course, we should try to learn about them. But the fact is that Modi had by then been elected Prime Minister of India. And yes, does it sound like a bit of it is a bit of a problem that what's her name? Tulsi Gabbard, being as she wasn't elected yet, had worn a BJP scarf, which is a party in India. That, yes, there are associations with a number of more militant Hindu groups over there in India. So that is kind of a problem. However, we're still talking about a group in terms of the party of the BJP that has held power in India before. I think they held power at the end of I think it was either from 1999 to 2001 or something, under Atal Bihari Vajpayee. So this was a recognized, very mainstream political party in India at the time. Even if you reject their politics, even if you reject the nationalist religious beliefs of Hindutva, and there is certainly an argument about it. If you can argue against, let's say, Christian fanaticism or Muslim fanaticism, there's certainly a criticism you can give to Hindutva, and especially if you're one of these Sikh minority people. Okay, so I understand why you're reticent and resistive of having a Hindu nationalist as your prime minister. But the fact is that Tulsi Gabbard is not doing anything worse than what Justin Trudeau is doing here as Prime Minister of Canada, going up and hugging Prime Minister Modi on a visit with his family to India in February. In fact, Trudeau did a number of ridiculous things on that trip, both in relation to his personal behavior and people that he met with, including an actual convicted Sikh terrorist from India. So these people are not going to say, well, Justin Trudeau should not meet with the Prime Minister of India. It's part of your job as the leader of a country. And more so, Tulsi Gabbard, once she became a representative of Hawaii, once she became a member of the House of Representatives, there is a certain issue where members of our legislature, both in the Senate and the House, part of their job is to discuss issues of importance in the relations of the United States to other countries. That includes India, that includes Russia, that includes Saudi Arabia, that includes Israel, that includes Palestine, that includes Turkey, that includes Mexico, that includes all the countries that we have work, or we at least try to have working relations with, and that they have diplomats here in the USA, or their leaders come here to the USA. There's no reason that a legislator, whether in the House or the Senate, cannot meet with them. It's part of the job. In fact, that was one of the reasons that they were trying to impugn the character of Jeff Sessions for meeting with the Russian ambassador in 2016. Even though he was, as a sitting senator, one of your jobs is to discuss details of foreign policy with foreign diplomats. And indeed, Claire McCaskill, who was a senator from Missouri, was later caught having had a similar meeting with the same ambassador from Russia. So I would say that this story, even if, I mean, let's grant it to you that there might be some issues with the Indian government, but we cannot fault an American elected official, especially a member of the federal government, the House of Representatives, elected federal legislator. You can't fault them for meeting a foreign leader, especially one of a country as important as India. We have our leaders meet with the president of China. Does it mean that we are in favor of everything that China does? No. Does it mean that we think that our relationship with China is important? Yes. The same goes for India. The same goes for Mexico. The same goes for any other country. So when I saw this ad, I thought it was bizarre. And I think it was part of a smear campaign against her. So that answers the question in the title. And you can even see here that she won She didn't win by a very large. I think she did. She did win by a huge margin. It was 75-11 in the Democratic primary. But people will just throw mud at you for nothing. I think that this was an unfair attack against her. I'm not going to call it racist because, of course, she converted to Hinduism. But the person in the ad calls her a racist. The person in the ad basically accuses her of being party to ethnic cleansing in India, even though it's a religious conflict. There's a religious conflict. We have to recognize it between the Hindu Indians, those that believe in the Hindu religion of India, and Muslim Indians, as well as in other parts of the country, not Gujarat so much. The Sikhs, and then there's, I think in the south, I don't even think it's in India. I think in Sri Lanka there's an issue between, there's the Tamils and the Sinhalese, which are, you could talk all day about this. And the reality is that Tulsi Gabbard, you can criticize all of her foreign policy or whatever. She also went and met with Assad. You could say that there's issues with that. There is no issue, in my opinion, that you should be able to object to her meeting he's not the sovereign, but the head of government of the second largest country in the world in terms of population. So yeah, this is a smear, and I'm not going to pretend it's anything else. I hope that in the future people will think twice, because I don't think it was very effective. I think people kind of looked at this and they said, well, I don't really care what this is about. I don't think it's germane to anything going on here. I think that Tulsi Gabbard does reflect the values of this state of Hawaii. And indeed, she did win very convincingly. So have a good night, and I'll see you guys later. Have a great Wednesday, and let me know what you think. Please like the video, share the video, comment when it uploads, and also subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. Send me an email to chefleopardyt@gmail.com if you want to be on the mailing list, so you're sure to get notifications. See you later.